Welcome into the Brick House. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. Second round, complete action underway, and we'll get all into that next on the Brick House. Welcome into the Brick House. And before we get to all that great NBA action you want to hear about, I want to give a big shout out to one of our affiliates, and that is W. W right here. You see the sticker on my microphone. I am telling you right now, they have some of the best clean energy supplements you can need for all the mental focus and none of the jitters you want to do all the things you need to do throughout your day. They also have hydration products, tons of other things like gym clothes, gym bags, apparel, and shaker bottles, as well as a 20-ounce steel tumbler you can go get. You'll see the link in the description. Use our code, TheHouseCall, all caps, no spaces, TheHouseCall, to save yourself 10% on your order and get yourself that clean energy you want. I love their products. I've had a couple of their flavors. It's fantastic. My wife loves them. I'm getting some other stuff for her as well. I'm ordering it. You should be too. Now, we're going to start off just because I want to get it out of the way, and I just want to get it out of the way. I want to be done with it, and then we can move on. And so we're going to start in the Boston Cavaliers series.
Okay, let's go.
And similarly to how I felt about the Heat series is how I felt about the Cavaliers series. There is no reason that the Celtics should not have just ran them off the court. And once again, somehow they have found a way to lose the second game of the series at home by double digits. And I don't understand. I really don't, as a Celtics fan, this idea. And I saw something like they showed Joe Mazzulla, they showed Brad Stevens, when they had what was considered to be an inferior opponent come into Boston, just face them in a series in general. Their home game record is great. Joe Mazzulla's home game record against in series like this, he is 500. A team that lost, I do believe, over like a 41 game stretch, only lost 8 home games.
Yes.
Has lost 2 in the last 5. 2 of the last 5 home games the Celtics have dropped, and they are once again doing the I'm playing with my food mentality, where it all comes back to, do they have the killer mentality? And every time I watch them, the answer is no. They don't. Because two things happen. One, the ball becomes stagnant. It doesn't move. They start forcing hard shots. And they start trying to play hero ball. And then they get blown out by 20 or 30. And it's like, they shouldn't have that problem.
Right.
Now, game two, I was expecting. I at this point, as a Celtics fan, I expect it. People who were like, I can't believe this happened. Can you really not? Have you not watched? Have you not been paying attention to what they do year in and year out now? What it's like, my man? This is what they do. This is who they are. They're going to go 6 or 5, 6, 7 games every series for no other reason than just to play extra minutes. They'll get to the Eastern Conference Finals. They'll do it there. They'll get to the finals and be dog shit tired because who they're going up against is like either swept or only lost 1 game in every series and got a chance to rest. And then they'll get blown off the court in 6 because they don't have the legs anymore. And it's just consistently year in and year out. And the bad part is that they're going to have to face a Knicks team here, because even though the Pacers stole game 3, they had to really really try. But the Celtics are eventually, if they can make it past the Cavs, I'm not even going to look past the Cavs, but even if you make it past the Cavs, you still have to go against a Knicks team that is gritty. The New York-Boston matchup is insane.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
Oh, it'll be nuts. It'll be nuts. And then if you're lucky enough to get past them, you're going to have to face some combination of Thunder, Magic, Timberwolves, or Nuggets.
Ooh, tough.
And you're already proven that you can't close out inferior opponents, because honestly, outside of Donovan Mitchell, who do the Cavaliers really, really have to match up against? Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard when he's bombing threes everywhere, Tingus Pingus when he's back out there. They shouldn't even be a question. And yet here we are again. They shouldn't even have had to go 5 games against the Heat, and they lost game 2. I just don't get it. And I don't know. This is one of those situations where maybe, like, I know I just said it's not the coach's fault. But when you look at the 2 previous coaches and the fact there was a killer mentality, like, you're kind of letting your guys off the hook. You're letting them take their foot off the pedal. And when you see that as a coach, that's when you need to get involved. That's a timeout. Hey, what are we doing? Do we want to be here? Ask the question. Do you want to be here? Because you're playing like you don't. And if you keep playing like you don't want to be here, or like you think this is supposed to be given to you, right? Like Tatum even came out and said it, like, everyone calls us a super team, but we weren't rewarded like one. We had 2 All-Stars. No one was really in the finals, but I don't think anyone made an All-NBA team. But we're a super team, right? So if you're that slighted about it, play like it. If you're playing like you're a super team and you were rewarded like one and things should just be handed to you. You've already proven that things won't be handed to you, and yet, here we are, 1-1 again against a team that you should have absolutely mopped off the floor. And if you're going to lose a game, don't do it at home. Don't do it in the Garden. Don't do it in TD Garden like that in front of your home fans, getting blown out by 20. Are you fucking kidding me? Jesus Christ, man. And, like, it just infuriates me as a Celtics fan, because I was like, what are you talking about? They've been in the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals like 4 of the last 5 years. Aren't you excited about that? No. They don't call it they don't call it Boston the Eastern Conference Finals town. It's title town, baby. You win championships.
Facts.
That's the expectation. Just getting there was good enough. We'd be like Houston or fucking, insert city here that's mediocre, all right? Like, like that's kind of what. No, that's not it. Okay, especially with the teams we've had, the teams that the Celtics have put out there, they should have absolutely been dominated. And every year they're turning the ball over like it's fucking like they're allergic to it, just giving it away, like it. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm feeling like I'm going to stick with it. I'm sticking with what I said the last time. Until they prove me wrong, I'm going to be pessimistic. I'm going to say that they might lose to the Cavs in 7.
Wow.
Because they haven't proven to me that they can take an opponent seriously. Realistically, right? I mean, like, I understand the game the Heat won, the Heat shot from 3 amazing.
Yeah, historic.
Right? Historic level shooting, and it wasn't sustainable. What the Cavs did in game 2, that's sustainable. All right? They can do that. Maybe not game in, game out. But if they get one, or if they get both at home or one at home, and it's a 2-2 going back to Boston in game 5, right? You split the series in Cleveland. You come back to Boston in game 5, you can find yourself in a 3-2 hole, Boston, because they can play this way. That's why they're here. Like, you look at the Magic series, they played a Magic team that was very good defensively and very good offensively.
Yes.
Guess what? The Cavs came out on top in 7. They are going to be able to hang with you. And unless you take them seriously soon, you'll be sitting at home and we'll be talking about you on the next episode, because that's what we do. We talk about the teams that are at home that have major questions, and that's what you'll be. But, I mean, come on. I mean, obviously you're a Knicks fan. You and I both want to see the New York-Boston matchup.
Yes.
But do you have confidence that the Celtics are going to move past the Cavaliers based on what you're seeing right now?
Yes, but I will say this. Wow, that's a lot. Because I watch every game in the playoffs. But Boston's going to be all right. And
I fucking hope so, man. I can't deal with any more depression.
Okay, they're going to be all right if they cut out a couple of things. Because sometimes it's not the fact that you lost, it's how you lost. One, like you said, they got blown out at home. Remember, this is a Cleveland team that couldn't win in Orlando. And I know Orlando is not as good as the Celtics. So for them to come to your home building after they played all those games in Orlando, close games, some games were blown out, and they couldn't get the job done, for them to go to your house in game 2. Now, I'm going to say this, Joe. And I'm going to apologize. I'm not sure if I said it on this show, if I said that the Celtics are going to win in 5. I don't think I said the Celtics will win in 4. But I don't like the fact that I kind of slept on Orlando and Cleveland. Because I'm looking at it from a Knicks lens. I'm the objective fan, so I gotta remove some of the bias because I feel like the Cavs are just well below the Knicks, but they're still a good team, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why, well, there's a couple of things with Boston. One, you don't have KP. Now they can say they don't have Allen, which is true, but I don't think Allen would be able to neutralize what KP is going to do. I think that they would have to try to run a zone or something because KP to me changes things for the Celtics only when he's on. Now the issue with the Celtics is, like you said, they take tough shots, but you live by the three, you die by the three. That's what happened in Minnesota last night. We'll get to that, but the Celtics have to use their size and the fact, like you said, Cleveland Cavaliers on the perimeter defensively, food. They cannot, White, even Holiday, forget Brown and Tatum, White and Holiday, I don't think they can match, right? Offensively, right? If those two guys have got it going. So the Celtics have to be able to do more than hit the three ball. That's one. Another issue Boston's going to have now, none of these series in the playoffs, especially when you get to the second round, should be that decisive where you're getting swept or a team's winning in 5 games. All these series should go at least 6 games, right? And I think that's possibly where this Cleveland thing can go. I maybe 6 games. I'm not sure about 7, but definitely I can see 6 games. But Boston has to win game 3. They have to. If you lose game 3, now you give the Cavs life that, whoa, we beat the well, I was gonna say defending champions. For some reason we look at the Celtics like they didn't.
They already won one, but they haven't. I know, right? Like the way we talk about them in this rarefied air is they've already won a championship.
Right? Yeah, I know. Yeah, we got to stop because this is why you have to do it on the floor. And so, if they go down 2-1, Cleveland, honestly, in my opinion, is a live threat in the series. But if Boston goes to Cleveland, and even if they win the game in a tight fashion, it kind of like dwindles game 2 a little bit because now you take back home court advantage and you possibly could win game 3-2, making it a 3-1 series. So that's why I'm not counting Boston out just yet. They definitely have to win game 2. And I think they're more than capable. But Mobley in the post, that's kind of a new wrinkle too that I don't think we expected to see because Mobley he's like a guy that, operates off pick and roll, more of a defensive guy, doesn't really look for a shot. But if he's looking to attack in the paint, I don't think the Celtics have anyone that can match what he's doing. I'm sure Horford is a solid veteran, but he's not really a defensive stopper, right? Luke Cornett, good hustle player. If this kid Mobley is playing the way he's playing, that is a real threat, right? Yeah. KP, I'm not sure what his injury situation is, but you might have to speed him back because I think KP in the lineup takes away a lot of that because now he stretches the floor and he's 7'4", and he's an anchor on the defensive end. So it's all a matter in how Cleveland is going to play. And then another thing too, getting Mitchell, easier shots, right? Instead of taking these crazy fadeaway threes and getting these up. And Karis LeVert is another guy who always scares me. And I tell people about him. I'm like, this kid could play. Yes, he's very inconsistent. He'll have moments where he's like, yo, who is this guy, right? But when he is on, oh man, he's a threat to score. But yeah, I'm not worried about the Celtics just yet. I think the Celtics definitely could still win the series in 5. I'm not counting no team out. These playoffs have shown me if you think it's going to go one way, watch some more games and let's really see if it's going to go that way because it always goes the opposite, right? So I think all these series are 6-game series in my opinion. But the Celtics are not. They're fine. They're fine.
I mean, I hope so, man, because like I said, I've seen it enough times to know that, where there's smoke, there's fire. And the Celtics have been doing the same shit they were doing last year and the year before that. And it drives me up a wall. But we're going to move to your team.
Okay.
We're taking on the Pacers right now. And I really didn't think the Pacers, I knew the Pacers beat the Bucks because there was so much dysfunction in Milwaukee. That team never really gelled. So I knew the Pacers would beat the Bucks. This series right now is completely in control of the Knicks. The Pacers, they get the first game in Indy. That's a win. I expect, you're going to come out firing at home on all cylinders. They had to really, like a game when, just a dagger 3 to really lock that game up. I think the Knicks come out in game 4, lock them down. This Knicks team is absolutely playing the way that I expected the Celtics to play. And the funny thing is that if the Celtics played the style of ball the Knicks are playing, the Celtics would have swept the Heat. They would probably be on their way to sweeping the Cavaliers because they just have more talent at a few more positions. But Jalen Brunson is an absolute if that man does not have a statue in New York outside of Madison Square Garden by the end of this playoff run, it's probably in the works because he is making himself into a Knicks legend. So without any further ado, I'm going to kick it over to the objective but not so objective Knicks fan here. Take it away,
yes.
my man.
Yes, listen, I always got on my objective hat, even when I'm talking Knicks, and all my Knicks people know that. So, I mean, this series to me, surprised. I did a live watch party for Game 2, and some of the keys to victory was slow down the pace, and contain the Pacers bench, right? The Pacers bench, with the exception of the last game, has been the Knicks that ain't playing the bench. So it's like there is no bench battle. The Knicks are playing, they were playing their starters 40 minutes. That changed a little bit with Game 3. They played a couple of more bench guys. But how I see this series being a success for the Knicks is just completely out the trash, out the window. The Pacers were 4-0 when they score 120 points or more. The Knicks, they score over 120 points. The Knicks beat them by damn near double digits. I can't even remember the final score, but I mean, they ran the table on them. And I'm like, whoa, you don't want to run the table against the Pacers. Prove me wrong in that. So this is another series where I knew the Knicks could beat the Pacers, but the way they're doing it, honestly, this should have been a sweep. Like you said, Indiana at home, all of that, adrenaline, desperation. You don't want to let the home crowd down. I knew Halliburton was going to have the game of his life, right? And I think, honestly, and I know this is going to sound crazy, and I don't know the stats. I don't have the stats on this. I didn't get a chance to look it up, but I feel like when Halliburton has to score 30 or more, the Pacers are doomed. I think they're better when he's getting 20 and 12 because now he gets these other guys going, Nembhard, Naismith, they get easy shots, right? Even Siakam, he gets the other guys flowing. When he has to put up 30 points, it's usually because they ain't got no offense from nobody else. And their bench, which was really a great asset for them, especially in the first round against the Bucks, didn't show up in Game 3. They got the win, a lot of last second stuff. When it gets down to the wire, sometimes you could flip a coin. Guys hit lucky shots. I mean, that was a lucky shot by Nembhard. They honestly should be down 3-0. And they definitely lucked up. And the sad part about it from the Pacers side of it is that I feel like Game 3 was their best punch. Yeah, that was the best job they can do. Miles Turner was balling. Pascal Siakam was balling. Even Halliburton, like I said, with the 30+ points, right? But their bench didn't, of course, the exception of the bench. But at the same time, they finally got their starters going because their bench was a huge plus in the plus minus. Now the starters for the first time became the plus in the plus minus. So I just feel like the Knicks are playing a better style of basketball. They're not as reliant. Like the Pacers offense, though, it's very high powered because they run. Everything is a transition. I mean, even when you score a basket, they're gone, right? That's what makes them dangerous, right? But when it comes to half court basketball, they rely too much on Halliburton and even TJ McConnell and sometimes Nembhard when he's the dominant ball handler to make the plays and set everyone up. And on the watch party, I said, watch the Pacers. Look at how no one on this team shoots above from the top of the key. Everybody's shooting from the corner. Everybody's waiting for Halliburton or someone to dish it to the corner. Only Miles Turner sometimes on the pick and pop. Siakam is the anomaly in the offense where he's the only one that has the free reign to not have to be set up for a basket. right? And I think that the Knicks being a great defensive team, especially in the half court, the Pacers can't win that fight. They're losing the fast-paced Pacers run. They're losing that battle. And then the Knicks are shooting. The shooting for the Knicks has been the most incredible. That's why they don't have to offensive rebound. If you're making 57% of your shots, there is no offensive rebounding. You're making well over 45% from downtown. There is no offensive rebounding. You don't need it, right? It's when you get the offensive rebounds. And last night, Indiana got a couple of key offensive rebounds down the stretch as the game got tight and things of that nature. So not having OG Anunoby definitely was another notch for the Pacers, because honestly, he had Siakam on smash. Siakam had a hard time with OG. They were teammates. He knows his game. So Siakam had the opportunity to deal with, to not have to deal with that OG Anunoby defense. They say OG's not going to play game 4. Honestly, I don't think it matters, because I think that the way the Knicks are playing, I don't see the Pacers being able to match that style of play, because like I said, one, they got a lot of guys who are inexperienced, right? Some of the guys been there. Turner's been in some playoffs. Of course, Siakam's won a championship. But like I said, outside of the pick and pop with Turner and Siakam, his ability to create, they rely heavily on their point guards to make plays. I don't believe Nembhard, has it in him to do any clutch shot. I mean, he wasn't really having a good game, especially on the defensive end. Dante damn near had 40 on him. And Brunson, you already know what Brunson does. So with a hobbled leg. So I think that game 4, I feel like the Knicks are going to win that game. And then game 5, hopefully OG's back. I think the Knicks can win in game 5. But honestly, I had a 6-game series coming into the series. So I got the Knicks in 6. And the Knicks, they won their home games, right? Unlike the Boston. So it's all a matter of
nice little underhanded jab there for me.
No jab. I'm just saying why, the Knicks people, why you should be high. And then the Celtics are going to be fine to me, because I think Celtics will win game 3. But it's just how they're playing the game, how they're winning the game, outpacing the Pacers. The Pacers won a Knicks style game, surprisingly. That's not their game. They're trying to put up 120, 25 points. They're having a hard time doing that against these Knicks team, and the Knicks team is proving that they could run with them. So that's my take on that. Surprisingly, I just couldn't believe the Knicks could withstand that pace, because a lot of teams will. And then, like you said, the Knicks were only playing 7 guys.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter.
Hart finally got his first benchman, or his first sit down in the third game of the series.
Exactly. So now the Knicks are playing these guys off the bench. We had a Jericho Sims sighting. I was like, whoa! I didn't expect to see that. I knew Burks would have to play. I knew they would have to play at least one more guy. But seeing that he's willing to play Sims, Burks gave them a solid. I think he played over 20 minutes. So it's inevitable. It's just a matter of 6 games or 5 games for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. We talked about this before. There is a regular season pace where a team can run and just go and go and go night in, night out, because other teams can't handle it, especially in back-to-backs when they got to face teams like that. But in the playoffs, things slow down. And teams that can play that style of basketball successfully, the half-court style of basketball, are significantly more successful in the playoffs than the run-and-gun teams. And I think that's why this series, to me, seemed like it was going to be one-sided, and it's kind of felt that way a lot of the time, is that I knew the Pacers would keep it close because they can run and gun and they can get those opportunities. But the Knicks' style of play, because it's a playoff style of play, is why I think that they're probably handling this in 5 or 6, like you said. I'm leaning more towards 5, but yeah, it's kind of running on the wall. The Pacers don't play a good defensive style of basketball. The Knicks are significantly better on the defensive end than in my personal opinion. And let's not get it twisted here. If the Knicks were fully healthy, this wouldn't even have been a question.
Forget about it. See, I didn't want to go there. See, I could have fanned out. I could have said, if we had...
I'll fan out for you. We all know that if Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Bogdanovic was out there, this would have been over. This would have been cash money done. Over.
We're talking about contending in the finals. I know you don't want to hear that, Joe.
Oh no, I know it would have that would be honestly, with the way the Celtics are playing, I would actually probably pick the Knicks in the next round, just because if they were healthy, that's just that team is on par, is just as good as what the Boston would put out there. But we're going to transition to the Western Conference and start off in a matchup that I think is probably my favorite right now, purely because I think that this team is an anomaly, and I think that they are going to be here for a very, very long time. We're going to start off with OKC and Dallas. Dallas obviously evened the series 1-1 in Oklahoma City. This is the NBA version of the Red River rivalry, which I love to say because it is a tongue twister and a pain in the ass to say, but obviously a very, very historic grudge match between Oklahoma and Texas. And now we get the NBA version with the Thunder and the Mavericks. The Thunder, to me, are a team, like when we were talking about how good the West is, when we were talking about the Suns and the Lakers, this is the team that is going to be around for a very long time. They have an extremely young core. I think their average age is the lowest of any playoff team in NBA history. They are playing like they are not young at all. They swept the Pelicans in the first round. They find themselves in a dogfight with, veterans, playoff contenders in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, but they are holding their own. I think that, we've already seen that Luka is starting to feel the pains and wears of playoff basketball. He's on the injury report. He is a game time decision, if I remember correctly, for this game. There are rumors he's got I believe it's a knee and an ankle, if I'm not mistaken. And that is going to be a big, big blow if he's a no-go, because let's be fair, he makes shots that you and I would only dream about making, and it's another Tuesday for him, right? So if he is a no-go, this series to me, even though it's the first game in Dallas, I think the Thunder are going to take this game. I saw the injury he had. He was already kind of hobbling away in game one. That's when he first, he had that little trip and kind of banged his knee off the court there, and, was hobbling up there. He did not look right in that game. Came out in game two. They played a lot better. Seemed to have had another issue with that sort of injury there, and it's starting to look bad. But this seems to be a recurring theme for the Dallas Mavericks. It's they get there, things start to go wrong, and they're just one piece away. They're one injury away. They're just always one away. And in this series, I think that although the Oklahoma City Thunder are significantly younger, I picked them to win this series. I think they're still going to win this series. The Dallas Mavericks, I think, and before I get too much into the Oklahoma City Thunder, I owe Kyrie Irving an apology. And the apology is that I, as a basketball fan, I've never once really liked Kyrie Irving. I thought he was too high on himself. I thought he talked about himself too often. I thought he did things that were purely a me thing, not a we thing. And his entire demeanor has changed this offseason and throughout the season. If you watch his interviews, he's more relaxed. He doesn't seem like he's got to defend himself as much. He understands his role in this team. He understands what he is for this team. And it's still a top 10 player in the NBA, in my opinion. Like he is without a doubt the best ball handler the league has ever seen. And I think that it took some time, but he has grown. And he is playing the style of basketball the way it should be played that I always thought he was capable of. So Kyrie Irving, I am sorry. I judged you prematurely. And, as a Boston fan, obviously there's some animosity there. But
I understand.
It is good to see you performing the way you need to perform. You're going to play out of your mind if Luka goes down in this series to keep the Mavericks' playoff chances alive. I think he can. I've seen it before. But to me, this is the Thunder series to lose. Karan, what do you think, man?
So it's all on Luka, like you said. Because I feel like it's the Joel Embiid effect, where Luka doesn't necessarily have to be 100%, because Kyrie has really, like you said, taken on the reins to be in that mature point guard. To put it in, like, Luka's kind of like the two. So if Luka can lace him up, give them 25, 29 points, Kyrie can vacillate his scoring depending on what the team needs, because if you're going to get 29 again from PJ Washington, I'm not sure if you're going to get that again, but if you can get some scoring for some, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is another guy who was the third scorer on the team. So they got some guys that can put the ball in the basket. I think that it's all on Luka at this point. If Luka is playing, I'm favoring the Mavericks because I feel like Kyrie Irving is the difference maker. Like you said, to piggyback on what you said about his, his the way he's growing, the way he's playing, and we even said this on the last show we did together. Was I said his professionalism, like whether his personal beliefs are the same, I don't care. His father is a very active figure in his life, and I just think that you the way he's been brought up, his upbringing, and the fact that he's maturing and professionalism. As long as he doesn't say you could believe the world's flat, that's your business. We don't need to know that. All you have to do is show up and play basketball, and then you can affect the community like how he's been doing. You don't have to be so outspoken, right? To have that influence on people from an activist standpoint, right? And playing well, I think, is the number one thing he can do. But he, to me, is the difference maker in this series. Remember, he helped Cleveland win the championship. He was a very integral part in that. Without him, Cleveland probably wouldn't have got through that. Probably wouldn't even been in the finals. But so he's somebody that can literally take over the game at any moment. If the game is close, I favor Dallas, not because of Luka, because of what Kyrie can do, how he creates shots. And I'm not sure if he's top 10 in the league anymore, but in the playoffs and the way he can play when it's like he's a top 10 player. Like whether he's a top 10 player the whole year, it doesn't matter. He can beat a top 10 player on any given night.
Yeah.
So I just think that the size is another issue for me because Gafford, they've running him off pick and roll. I mean, him and Lively are getting so many lob threats, Hey, more Duke guys putting in work, but I digress. The lob threat, and honestly, they're the first team. Well, it's only the second round too, but the size is a problem. Chet Holmgren had, I believe, 6 rebounds. Didn't have a great shooting night as well. I think that these guys are out of position when it's time to play on an elite level, and you're going up against a team that has just as much as athleticism as you, but a bigger. And I think that that's going to be a problem with a healthy Luka. Now, if Luka is not there, OKC can get it done because I just believe in SGA. I think SGA is incredible. It doesn't matter what anyone else does on the floor. He's going to give you his 30, maybe 8 assists, 6 rebounds. And I think that not having Luka to match that puts too much pressure on Kyrie Irving to now be point guard and have to score. What makes Luka and Kyrie effective is that they can switch roles on a dime. Like one moment Kyrie's the point guard, next moment Luka's the point guard, and they're doing a better job playing off each other. And honestly, they're both playing defense. I mean, Kyrie at one point was leading the playoffs in steals. I think we talked about that last time too. And so they're both giving you a commitment on defense. And then you have PJ Washington and Derrick Jones, which I'm not sure if he's out. No, he's good. He's not on the injury report. So having those two guys definitely makes Jalen Williams' life a lot harder. Makes SGA, he's going to do what he's. I don't think nothing can stop SGA from getting his going. But these other guys are inexperienced, and so you're going up against an experienced group. Even though Dallas have young guys too that never been anywhere either. But it goes back to who's running the ship. And I'm just going to take even a hobbled Luka with Kyrie over SGA and Jalen Williams. I just think that not having the experience, and then another thing too, Lou Dort, who was great against Ingram, and Ingram, like you said, was hurt. A lot of people didn't factor that in, and he definitely was. He wasn't 100% Ingram, and they kind of overestimated Lou Dort's defense. I mean, he's really aggressive, but he's kind of too aggressive at times. He picks up these fouls that he shouldn't get, and it's like. And then there's no awareness when you have 2 to 3 fouls. He continues going. And I think he's the only defender that can kind of make Luka's life a little harder, but Luka is Luka. If Luka can lace him up, he's going to get 30 or 29. It's like There's nothing you can do with him. And Luka doesn't have to play point guard. He could just rebound and score and let Kyrie set up the offense. I just feel like that's going to be too much to overcome for the young OKC. But if Luka's not there, OKC in 5-6.
Yeah, we're going to find out. He's a game time decision right now in that game. So don't get me wrong, like Luka Doncic, it's silky smooth, man. The guy out there is just like, it's so beautiful when that man is shooting a basketball, and it's insane.
It's insane
how he looks, because I mean, I don't know what it is, man, but Luka, yeah, he's the key to this game. Like you said, he's the key to this series, and being a game time decision, if he's not 100%, like I said, if he laces him out there, he's going to give you everything he's got. But it's going to be tough, especially thinking about what's next in the playoffs, and you can't get that far ahead. But I mean, you got to try to rest him as much as possible and still make it out of this series. And I think that's going to be the hard part for Jason Kidd and the Dallas Mavericks. But we're going to move on to the last series still going, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have looked absolutely dominant every single game outside of game 3 in this series, where the Nuggets had to go out and say, hey, we're still the defending champions, and we are still going to give you everything we got. And they're in Minnesota for that game, and they absolutely gave them the business. 27-point win on Minnesota's floor. The thing is here, no one thought the Nuggets would get swept. Right. The big caveat here is that if a team doesn't score over 100, they lose. Every single game this series, if a team didn't score over 100, they lost. The first 2 games, Minnesota scored 106. Denver scored 99 and 80. Game 3, Denver scored 117. Minnesota scored 90. So that tells you, like, if you don't score 100, you're not winning a game in this series. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves come out in this game. They're going to get home. They're going to represent on home court. They're going to show who they are. I think the Nuggets had to win this game. They had to, after what just happened in Denver. I think Minnesota's going to win this game. This is a series goes 6. I think they're going to split in Minnesota, go back to Denver. Denver's going to win in Denver, and then they're going to come back down to Minnesota, and Minnesota's going to close them out in 6. I think that this team matches up very well with Denver. I think you got, Anthony Edwards is very, very physical, capable of, matching up with anybody. Mike Conley is a very good defender, very good at matching up. Rudy Gobert is Defensive Player of the Year. He plays a little more of a drop coverage, but you also got Karl Anthony Towns right there who can match up with Jokic. They both play, very lanky, very mobile guys who can guard him very well. Force him to be more of a passer and less of a scorer. And with the other defenders that they have on the floor, that really this is a very bad matchup for the Denver Nuggets. And knowing that, I think that's where I see, I think Denver is going to get at least one more game out of this series in their win column. But this is, we critiqued Denver at the beginning of the year for what they didn't do. They didn't really bring in anything to make the team better. They, if anything, kind of hovered around where they were, which, I mean, if you're a championship team and you retained your players and kept the roster pretty much the way it was, sure, that's great, but you have to remember everyone else is getting better, right? Like the guys who didn't win the championship are looking to get better because they know what they have to do to beat you now, right? Like they're trying to beat you. So staying the same isn't exactly the best way to do it. And, they could have avoided this if they had maybe played a little better throughout the year. They'd be currently facing Dallas, and I think Dallas doesn't have the matchup capability to beat Denver. And the Timberwolves would have. They'd be probably facing, OKC. So I think that would have been a really good series as well. I don't know if OKC would have been able to match up with the Timberwolves as well as they have with what I've seen from the Mavericks. But at this point, I think this is the alarm's going off for Denver. This is a huge series for them. I'm not saying they're done. Mm-hmm. I could see them winning in 7. Just because of the veteran pedigree and how good they are. But I think Jokic is going to be, training his horses and going to horse races here after Game 6.
So this series, all right. So And my pick for the most even series in the playoffs was the Cavs and the Magic. Based on, especially if you want to base on regular, I know regular season doesn't count, but I think this is probably just as even as that series because both these teams went 2-2 in the regular season. And honestly, before I saw what happened last night, I thought that the Wolves were going to win, not sweep, because, you know, I don't think no team, even the Cavaliers, all these teams that made it to this round are good enough to make it a 6-game series, right? Now, of course, some series could go in 5 games. You know, a lot of things happen. You know, Luka's hurt. You know, hey, OKC could run off the next 3 games. But to shift it to this series, I want to give it to the Wolves. And I'm not sure if I said it on the show, but I had it in my notes that the Wolves are the one team I think that can beat Denver based off of a lot of what you're saying. And it still can happen. However, the Nuggets shown me that championship resilience. And I'm not just caught up in the game-to-game moments like a lot of fans are. I know, Joe, you, Matt, we look at the game. We are fans, but we try not to just be, okay, we see, you know, the low-hanging fruit pretty much, right? Because they got, you know, they lost the first 2 games at home. I remember as a Knicks fan, I unfortunately, I don't want to give my age, but I go back to the 90s. I remember being up 2-0, right? Even though I was young, I remember being up 2-0 against Michael Jordan, the great Michael Jordan, and they won the next 4 games. So, you know, the adjustments is why I now favor the Nuggets in this series. Rudy Gobert, they completely taken him out of the game. And a lot of people are like, wow, look at how great the Wolves defense was without Gobert. I've always said this is that if you can have like a smaller kind of big guy who's more mobile, it'll be easier to trap Gobert. I mean, Jokic.
Yeah.
Right? Because Jokic likes to bring the ball up and he likes to play like a point guard. So I'd rather Naz Reid. I feel like Naz Reid, I would rather him. But then now when Jokic decides to be a center, then maybe Gobert might be the guy. But that pick and roll, Jokic and Murray, they said, look, we don't care about, yes, the Minnesota, I even said it. I might not on the show, but I said that Minnesota had one of the best defensive rotations I ever seen in a playoff game where they were blitzing Jokic to get the ball out of his hand. He'll pass it. And the rotation was so good. They were able to contest shots. They were able to get in the passing lane, but they stuck to their guns. First, it starts with Jamal Murray. And then, honestly, they said this on the broadcast. They said that they had the extra day off. And because Murray had an injury too, which I think the extra day off definitely helped him. Because they said, we're going to get you easy baskets. Nothing off the dribble early. Once he got rolling, they couldn't stop. It was a snowball effect. And then that pick and roll was so good. I mean, everything came off that pick and roll. Sometimes it was a pick and pop. Sometimes it was just a pick and a dive for Murray. And then that created opportunities for other guys. The Nuggets, yes, they had a great shooting game too. Maybe that's going to be the best shooting performance of the playoffs. And, you know, they can't replicate it because the Wolves will make the adjustment. Honestly, the only adjustment that I think the Wolves can make is to either limit Gobert's minutes or to bench him for either Reed or, which I know they're not going to do, because I just feel like he's the weak link. And they found the weak link. They said, okay, Gobert's coming back. Okay, so we're going to attack him in pick and roll. He's not a good on pick and roll. He definitely is not good attacking the perimeter. Even when they
drop coverage, he has a drop coverage in his defense.
He's a straight drop coverage. Even when they switch it up and they put Towns on Jokic, right? So now we're gonna look for opportunities for Aaron Gordon to score. And then Michael Porter Jr. is another guy to me, and I might have said this on the last show too. Why doesn't he attack the basket, bro? You're 6'10". The only guy that can match him in the paint would be McDaniels. But all these other guys are like 6'6", 6'5". Yo, he's 6'10", and he wants to be a guard. Yes, he hits shots, right? And you know, hey, that's the way he plays. But man, if he could be a little bit more 6'10" big guy, man, he would be unstoppable. He would be a 20-point per game scorer because he's always being matched up with a guy that's way smaller than him. But I just feel like the drop coverage with Gobert is definitely a problem. Even when they switch the matchup, Aaron Gordon, they make him a threat, whether it's out of the dunker spot, whether it's even on the perimeter. Aaron Gordon was hitting threes, right? And then another two, Holiday, the bench really stepped up their game too. But Holiday is a guy who's kind of giving them the Bruce Brown effect a little bit. So Mike Malone, I mean, bro, Brendan, listen, he is the coaching he did in that game for them to get the productivity that they were able to get on the offensive end. Creative ways for Murray, because remember last year too, Murray was the X factor in that series. That was a tough series. So if Murray is rolling, I favor the Nuggets, but the T-Wolves probably should still win the series, because if they do win the next game, it has been done, but 95% chance, I'm going to take the 95% odds. I could see Minnesota getting the next game because I could see Anthony Edwards just going crazy. I mean, just, you know, and he didn't really get a chance to go crazy in this game. You got to credit the Nuggets defense. I mean, they made adjustments on the defensive end too, trusting their rotations, right? Protecting Jokic, because Jokic is another guy. Gobert is just not a threat on offense, because I would just put Jokic in pick and roll all day. But Gobert, he's just a roll threat. So you put Jokic in drop coverage, that sort of neutralize what Gobert can do. So, and then Towns is on the perimeter. So Towns has to become the big guy. So let's run pick and roll with Towns, not pick and pops. Let's run pick and rolls, you know, try to get more activity going to the basket, because if you're not going to work off the pick and roll, now Anthony Edwards has to be Michael Jordan-like. Not to say that he's doing a bad job at it, but it just makes the game a lot harder. So even the offensive end for Minnesota, to me, kind of struggles with Gobert out there. They were saying that the Minnesota Timberwolves would probably have to make a decision between Towns or Gobert. I'm choosing Towns, you know, and
10 out of 10, you know, and twice on Sunday.
You know, and try to move Gobert's contract. I feel like he's kind of the weak link. Not that he's a bad player. It's just the way the Nuggets are attacking them. They're utilizing his weaknesses. Yeah. And what the Wolves were doing was utilizing Jokic's weaknesses, especially on the defensive end, and game two especially, but even in game one. So that's, to me, is the difference in the series. I think the Nuggets could come back in the series based off the way the game is being played. We got to see what happens in game 4.
Yeah. Like I said, I can see this going 7 and Nuggets squeaking it out. I think Timberwolves got it in 6, but you made a lot of really great points. I don't understand why someone of Gobert's frame, he's not an overly massive big, you know, he's going to get bullied by larger bigs on the post. But the fact that he doesn't have the mobility far away from the rim like a Kristaps does, you know, because they're similarly built guys. But Kristaps just has better, you know, mobility on the perimeter to guard some of these larger guys who can move and shoot threes. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me why he plays that style of drop coverage. And honestly, that's why, not to go off on a tangent here, but Zach Edey, who NCAA 3-time NCAA Player of the Year, consecutively, Purdue big man, who's coming out, he's 7'4", but he's an on the block guy, and it's crazy to think that an NCAA, multiple NCAA Player of the Year, Big Ten first team consecutive years, all this stuff is going to end up at best being a role player because you can't play him.
Yeah,
because he can't defend on the perimeter. He doesn't handle people who can dribble and drive and stuff like that. He doesn't do it well, and you're like, this guy's got all these accolades. Why can't he do it? Well, it's the same thing with Gobert. Like, Gobert won Defensive Player of the Year. I thought it should have been Wemby. I think Wemby should have won Defensive Player of the Year. I think he deserved it more than Gobert because he plays a more complete style of defense. He can guard the perimeter. He can guard, the mid-range. He can guard at the rim.
Pick and roll.
He can do it all. And I feel like Gobert can't. And it's kind of one of those things like, we gave Gobert the Defensive Player of the Year because the Wolves are in the playoffs and the Spurs aren't. Well,
but Joe, the key thing too is he's not giving you nothing on the offensive end.
Yeah, and I don't understand it. And so
see, at least Jokic is just giving you the 28, 27, even though Jokic is not a good defender, but he's giving you something on the other end, right? And by him not at least being able to get 10 points, 12 points, it's kind of making him the weak link, a weaker link than Jokic. Because if Gobert's out there, then put Jokic on Gobert. It's simple. It's like, I'm taking Jokic offense over Gobert because it's kind of like they cancel each other out. But what is not? So now you guys say, okay, points, rebounds, assists. What are they giving you? Gobert is only giving you, and he didn't even give you many rebounds. I'm looking at, I got the box score here, only 4 rebounds.
So it's like he's not doing anything for you. I don't know. I think that they're going to make a decision. I could see Gobert playing less minutes, maybe only coming out on the floor when Jokic sits, just to allow that matchup to not be utilized as well. There, I think that's a coaching decision that needs to happen for the Wolves to really handle this series. It's going to be interesting. I think this is one, like you said, this is one of the most even series that we're going to have outside of that Cavaliers Magic series, which was an absolute thriller to watch. But I cannot wait for the rest of these series games to happen. We'll be right back here on the Brick House, breaking it all down with you, so you can see our takes and you can give us your takes in the comments. But until then, this is the Brick House. That's Karan. I'm Joe. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms and check out all of our affiliates. Those links will be down in the description of this video, as well as our website. Check that out, www.thetackhouse.com. We'll see you next time. Peace.